What I hope you get out of this class is a better understanding of what your product is and client management to elevate you as an inspector and your inspection business. So there's two types of inspectors out there. Which one are you? You know, the average inspector or the exceptional inspector? So the average inspector shows up, they're rushing, they're running late, maybe they forgot their flashlight, they show up right on time or late. Well, I don't know about you, but I was taught if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late. You're flustered, you've got minimal client interaction because you're trying to get through, so you don't want the client there actually until the end of your inspection. You go through a checklist mechanically. You talk about things in a way that creates anxiety. And then you leave quickly, you head off to your next inspection, and maybe you deliver that report the next day. The exceptional inspector is going to look at their client information, the property information in advance, either that morning or the evening before. They're going to make sure they have all their tools. They're going to arrive early. They're going to greet the clients warmly. They're going to set the stage with a sidewalk talk to set the inspections. Set their inspections so that you minimize issues, okay? They're there to educate the client. They're going to take their time. They're going to de-escalate concerns. And then when they wrap up the inspection, they're typically going to deliver the report within 12 to 24 hours, and then you go on to your next inspection. At the end of the day, in one case, you have grateful clients, and in the other case, you have clients that have anxiety. So what we strive to do is we strive for to be an exceptional inspector. So what I want to talk about is I want you to reframe your mindset. You are the product, not your inspection. Whoops, sorry about that. I'll get this right yet. Okay. You want to develop a compelling presence, okay, both online and in person. You want to manage and become really good at managing client emotions, okay? You can make a strategic decision and expand your ancillary inspections and price them right to increase your revenue. And you always want to embrace yourself as a marketing professional first. I often ask people in talks, what do you do for a living? Everybody always says, I'm a home inspector. I say, wrong answer. What do you do for a living? Again, they say, I'm a home inspector. You have to think of yourself as a marketing professional first. Home inspections pay the bills. But if you're not out there constantly marketing and building a following, we're always going to lose some of our followings. Your business dwindles. So the core of your business, for most of it, is home inspections, condo inspections, pre-listing inspections, other types of inspection services. I would encourage you to try to diversify your services so that when the market's slow, something else is busy. If you're not doing commercial inspections now, you should think about that, okay? It's a great source of revenue. The fees are a lot higher, and the liability is a lot less. Ancillary inspections, okay? Do you know your take rates on ancillary inspections, Joe? What's your take rate on sewer or radon?
With radon, we are about 70%. Termites, we're about 75%. And our sewer scans, we are about 65%.
So that's really good that he knows that. How many other people know your take rate for your ancillary inspections? If you don't, you need to be looking at those numbers. Are you doing them in-house or are you outsourcing them, okay? If you're doing them in-house, you're gonna make more money, okay? If you're outsourcing them, you need to be marking them up appropriately. If you just mark it up a couple dollars, it's not worth it. But ancillary inspections can add, if you consider the profit of it, not what you're paying your inspector, can add 20% or more, up to 50% to your profit margin. You are the product, not the home inspection, okay? The home inspection is the tangible output that your clients want, okay? But they don't hire you because you're with US Inspect, Pillar to Post, whatever company you work for. They don't hire you because you're with that company, okay? They don't hire you specifically because of the report. They hire you because you are the product. It's everything. It's the human touch, the ability to connect on a personal level, your communication skills, your professionalism, how you dress, how you talk, how you walk, your personal hygiene, your technical knowledge, your credibility, your credentials, your reviews, the empathy, the ability to understand clients, what they're going through. But they hire you because they like the way, a realtor or whomever refers you because they like the way you communicate with the clients. And all of these things that I've just mentioned are keys to you being a good product. So if you're not good at reading body language, if you're not good at some of those areas, improve upon that and you'll be a better product. I've scattered these golden rules through the presentation. So technology exists, but the human element, your personal connection, empathy, and ability to communicate complex information with clarity is the intangible value. So the foundation of that, it's technical knowledge, it's your ability to communicate, it's emotions, managing emotions, and it's clear report writing. So, communication skills, active listening, okay, paying attention to your client's concerns. Clear, when you're report writing, try to be clear of jargon, technical information. Your client doesn't know what a dead front cover is. We all do, okay? But speak in plain language, non-technical, layman's terms. A panel front cover is sufficient. If you use technical jargon, your clients may not understand what you're talking about and may have to go to Google just to understand your report. Project confidence, okay? Set realistic expectations, so the sidewalk presentation is really important. That's where you set your expectations. When I do a sidewalk talk, at first I ask if they have any concerns. And I say, that's okay if you don't have any, but I want to make sure I address them. I explain the structure of my report, how I report, what the different categories are, but then, and the scope of the report, but then I tell them, don't think of the report as a must-do list. Everything in the report does not have to be done today. In fact, there's a lot of information that's just there for informational purposes, okay? Think of it as a punch list. You do the things you need to do right away, and you punch away at those other things over time. Everything doesn't have to be done today, tomorrow. But what you don't want to do is file it away in a drawer and forget about it, and then 5 years from now, you're selling the house, and Hollis is gonna find everything that was on that list, plus more.
He's like that.
I heard about that.
Your goal is to be helpful and thorough. Avoid being a deal killer. You can be thorough without being a deal killer. Clearly distinguish between informational items, minor items, significant items, and major concerns. And provide valuable content. So your communication skills and how you communicate effectively with your clients can make a big difference between somebody that's all freaked out halfway through your inspection, overwhelmed, and may or may not move forward or may ask for too many things that may be unreasonable. If you clearly communicate, you can avoid those situations. So we're not going to do the exercise because we don't really have time, but I threw it in here because this is something you can do this evening. You can do with a group of inspectors. You can do it at home. You can do it with your spouses. But do some role-playing, active listening, scenario-based role-playing, craft clear explanations. So, rehearse an issue and come up with a simplified reply. Set expectations. So how do you set that? And then you always want to self-assess and evaluate your performance. This is something that everybody really should be doing in any area where they feel they're not adequate or where they can improve. In the full class, this is something we would actually take time to do. Reading body language. So it's beyond the spoken words. When you're there with your client, you have to look for nonverbal clues. No different than we're looking for clues to find things that might be a material defect in the home that lead us to believe something. We need to do that also with our clients so that we understand the client's true feelings and understandings. And by observing for signals, we can get really good at this. So facial expressions, observe for subtle changes. A raised eyebrow, a furrowed eyebrow, a slight frown, okay? All those things can be signals of confusion, of concern, or unspoken questions. Eye contact. Direct eye contact means they're engaged, okay? Avoiding eye contact could be discomfort, okay? Or it could just be that they're distracted. Darting eyes is a sign of anxiety. Proximity and space, how the clients react to your physical space. So if they're maintaining a comfortable distance, it indicates trust. But if they're backing away, it suggests uneasiness, okay? But distance may also be cultural, so keep that in mind. Posture and gesture, an open stance, relaxed hand gestures is generally considered receptive. Crossed arms and fidgeting indicates a defensive or nervous nature, okay? And if somebody's rocking side to side, they're generally anxious or scared. So just by observing body language, you can master the art of nonverbal communications. It also helps you manage your client's emotions. So when you see something, you see somebody's nervous or anxious or, any of these clues that lead you to believe something specific about what they're feeling, you know to counteract that and de-escalate before things get out of hand. Technical knowledge. Okay, well, it's the foundation of everything what we do. It's the reason why you're here. I don't really need to say much about this, but technical knowledge is really important. Continuing education, stay up to date. You may choose to specialize in specific type of inspections, so it's historic homes, log homes, earth homes, or something like that. But if you're specializing in a specific type of construction, like log homes, okay, you better understand the technical expertise. Hallis, if you never inspected a log home before, and somebody calls you, should you take that inspection or should you take somebody with you?
Maybe you should find somebody that knows more about it and refer to them.
Exactly. There's a huge liability if you don't understand the technical aspects of very specialized construction.
And that's why you get training on things that you have never done before, so that you're ready to do it next time when it does come in.
Exactly. So, golden rule number 3 is never stop learning. Guiding through stressful inspections. Okay, empathy and understanding. Okay, if you recognize your clients are uncomfortable or have anxiety and you validate that, you build trust. If you provide proactive guidance, I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, oh, that's got to be fixed or I just can't live here. And it's a $15 item. And I have to ground them and tell them you need to look at the big picture. Don't rush to make decisions until you see the totality of the report. Unless, of course, it's a roof or something, foundation or something that's significant enough that it's a no-brainer. Clear and calm communications is really important. And practice de-escalation techniques. So use active listening to validate their concerns, offer clear next steps, and redirect negative emotions with constructive suggestions. Golden rule number 4 is be calm in their storm. Report writing, you know, it's the clear deliverable. It's the tangible thing that you're giving them for their service. Okay, it's what they ultimately want, but be detailed in a digestible manner. Be clear and concise. Use visual aids, our photographs. Annotate your photographs. You know, you may want to put a drawing in it, so if you're talking about a collar tie and you have a drawing that shows a roof structure with a collar tie, that helps them understand. Make actionable recommendations. The goal is to be both thorough and helpful. Again, we want to avoid being the deal killer. We want to be a thorough inspector. So if you're a thorough inspector that knows how to manage your client's emotions, that's how you get around that deal killer reputation. But clearly distinguish between critical issues, minor issues, maintenance issues, informational issues, and provide valuable contents. Clarity builds trust is golden rule number 5. So, self-assessment can make a huge difference in not just the quality of your report writing, but the quality of everything we do. Assess from time to time your communication skills, how you manage emotions, how good you are at reading the room and reading those nonverbal signs. Your technical expertise, it's really important, the continuing education. We know you all understand that because you're here. Your report writing. Identify one or two client-facing strengths and one or two weaknesses. Then select a focus to improve a skill, make a plan to do something in a week to try to improve that skill, and then evaluate how well that worked for you. So, what are your top one or two strengths, and how do they benefit your clients? What's the single area where you need the most improvement? That's where you start. Then you come up with one specific action to take to begin improving that in the next week, and research de-escalation. But self-assessment is really important in everything we do, whether it's home inspections or anything else. You've honed your abilities as an experienced home inspector to offer a superior product, okay? But guiding clients, navigating emotions, realtor partnerships, maybe that's the wrong terminology. Some states have firewalls, okay? But really working with realtors to promote yourself and to make sure that you get referrals from realtors if it's permitted in your state. So I know in Lisa's state, there's a firewall. They can't work with realtors. But most states, 80% of our business comes from referrals from realtors. So it's really important that we foster those successful relationships and deliver value. Knowledge is key to guiding your clients. Your role is an educator. It's not a decision maker. It's not our choice to say, you should buy this house or you shouldn't. That's the realtor's job. Okay? We don't want to cross that line. Now, there may be times that you really need to be more assertive, okay? But we're there as an educator and inform them on what they're buying. Help your clients understand the magnitude of their deficiencies by providing context. This is common in a home of this age. You may hear me talk about old normal versus new normal if you're talking about a century home. If a home inspector in a 130-year-old home with a stone foundation comes in and does a golf ball test and says, oh my God, you've got a huge problem, you're doing a great disservice. If you walk into a 10-year-old house and you put that golf ball on the floor and it goes screaming across, that's a different story. So perspective. This is a maintenance item to monitor, not urgent to repair. Think of the inspection as a punch list. Remember, it's not your job to scare the clients. It's your job to inform them and to educate them. Monitoring and controlling emotions is your primary job. If you're really good at managing emotions, and this is something that we teach all the inspectors at my company, okay, you want to be able to manage your clients' emotions. It keeps them from freaking out, okay? It keeps the realtor from calling all upset with you, or oh my God, you scared my clients to death, or oh my God, they're about to walk off a cliff. So you need to be able to read the room. Look for those subtle clues, okay, that tell you about their client's emotions, their body language, their nonverbal clues. Initially, they're all smiles and excitement. they've got the joy of buying a new home. And they're emotionally attached, especially in today's world. You have people that have been looking for a year or more to find a home. They've put in offers on a half a dozen or a dozen houses, lost houses, and finally found this one. So they come in, they're emotionally attached, and now we have to ground them without freaking them out. We have to be able to educate them so they can make a smart decision on how to proceed. Watch for those changes in expressions, frowns, crossed arms, slumped shoulders, silence and questions, rapid fire concerns, okay? You deal with that appropriately. Sometimes you have to say, oh, I haven't done that yet, or can you hold that thought for just a minute because I don't want to miss writing something down. Cold feet indicators could be anxiety, doubt, the feeling of being overwhelmed. You can look at your client and you know when they're overwhelmed, okay? And it's really easy, if you practice this, to talk somebody off that ledge. Navigating the art of high emotions and calm guidance is really the key. So watch for the change, be an emotional anchor, and provide perspective. When emotions run high, things change. Their perspective change, and they can't look things through a clear lens. Use relatable analogies to make complex issues less daunting. So, again, we're not going to do this exercise. I've got some exercises in here, and this course, the full course, is a 2-hour course, which will be available later this year in ASHI if you're interested, where you can see all the exercises and go through that. But what I want you to do is just look for recognizing emotional triggers. Think about it during your next inspection. Pay extra close attention. Make a note of those. And then after the inspection, think about how would you best react to those emotional triggers. And is there a better way of handling the situation than you did? Practice de-escalation phrases and methods. It's a great thing to do. You know, if you're a multi-inspector firm, Joe, do it with your son. You know, do it with your wives. You know, if you're a member of a local chapter or a home inspector group, do a round table, break up in groups and do these exercises. And do some scenario-based role-playing and problem solving. You can also practice by scripting and to explain major defects. Thorough preparation in client interactions can present unexpected challenges. So if you have a toolkit of effective phrases that you use, you can navigate through sensitive topics, manage expectations, and control the conversation. The goal is to inform and educate. It might seem concerning, you know, but it's a common issue, okay? We see this in homes of this age, and there's well-established solutions. Provide clear explanation of the issue and outline a recommended step and a remedy. I've worked for 2 inspection companies. The first inspection company I worked for, the owner liked us to use, we recommend further review and repairs, replacement, modification, whatever the recommendation was. And he liked us to use that because he felt it limited liability. You were always recommending further review, okay? The company I work for now frowns upon that. You should be good enough to call it. There are times you have to say, I recommend further review. If you need an engineer, if it's something very specific that you know that they need further review on. But be good enough to call it. If the foundation wall needs to be repaired, you know that. You know, you've got mirrored angular cracks, the wall's bowed, it's displaced inward, you know it needs a repair. Just call it. Don't tell them how to fix it, but just tell them to fix it. So you should be good enough to call it and not always recommend further review. Think of it as an important information that allows you to make an informed decision and negotiate appropriately. That's always a good scripting line. Addressing realtor pushback. So you'll understand the realtor's perspective. However, your job is there to educate and inform. You know, the home inspector is the only unbiased person that's unbeholden to anybody but the buyer or our client, okay, in the entire process. Everybody else is getting paid if the deal closes. If it doesn't close, they don't. Or they're hired by somebody else. So the appraiser's hired by the mortgage company. Everybody else is hired by somebody else but the home inspector. So we're the only true unbiased person. Now, we can't tell the realtor that because they think they're unbiased. But, you know, we need to manage that pushback in a way, you know, so that it mitigates problems. You know, it's a visual observation based upon established industry standard. We're inspecting to a scope of work. Let's focus on ensuring the buyer has all the information they need to proceed with confidence. There's phrases you can use to mitigate realtor pushback. Managing your client's disappointment are emotional reactions, okay? Acknowledge their feelings, validate, you know, their experience, okay? But gently try to steer them back to a factual and solution-based information. I can see this as how this is disappointing, but a home is a significant investment, and discovering issues can be unsettling. It's important that you know what you're buying. My role is to uncover all aspects of the home so you can move forward with your eyes open. So there's phrases you can use in conversation to settle those disappointments, those emotional reactions. Set clear boundaries on the scope. Okay, it's crucial that we let them know what the scope of the work is, that we can't determine certain things, we can't, preventing unrealistic expectations and legal exposure is really important about setting expectations. They need to understand the scope. They need to understand it's limited to a visual, non-invasive inspection. Somebody was saying earlier today that the standard says you're supposed to inspect a fireplace in the flue. And so they say to their client standing in front of it, can you see the inside of the flue? I can't. It's a visual inspection. I can only see this much of it sticking my head in the firebox. And the clients are like, oh, okay, now I understand why you're saying to get that chimney inspection. Set their expectations, and that will help limit your exposure. Redirect emotional conversations to factual discussions. When conversations become highly emotional or veer off topic, guide them back to the inspection and the facts. I understand your concern, but I want to assure you we'll address all your questions. I appreciate you for sharing that, but the purpose of the inspection, let's look at the observable condition. My objective here is to provide you with a factual assessment of the home. Do you have one, Collins? How do you manage somebody's emotions if they're getting freaked out?
Well, I find myself sometimes doing marriage counseling. It's like, it starts out with, well, actually, you're both right.
There you go. Lisa?
It's definitely, we should be paid as counselors.
Yeah.
Trying to manage their expectations can be difficult. You just gotta take a deep breath and let them know, we're gonna find something in every house we go. We're just putting that list together to help them understand and plan the budget.
Anybody else? No takers?
I'd like to say, like, calm down, you don't actually own the house yet, or at all.
Sometimes bitch slapping helps us.
I told a guy one time, I have the sense you're not listening to me. And immediately he heard it. It's like, I'm not the first person to say that to him in his life, right? Oh, yeah, you're right. It's like, what are you trying to tell me? And he listened the whole rest of the time. He just needed to hear. He
Yeah.
needed to be redirected.
Yeah.
He thought we were talking about the house. He thought we were in a conversation. No, I'm
Exactly.
talking and you're listening.
Exactly. Just by engaging, you can mitigate some of these conditions. So, partner or working with realtors, it's a strategic alliance. It builds a stronger relationship with real estate agents, and it's crucial to your success. If 80% of your referrals come from realtors, that's really important. The company I used to work for, the owner was telling me, oh my God, our business is down because I moved the business in 2009 with the market into my home, and I'm no longer in West County, in St. Louis. He was convinced that was the problem. And I'm like, no, that's not the problem. And so then he went and found a little office. We moved back into West County, and we got a few more referrals because of search engines. But what really happened is he stopped marketing. He was doing so, he had all these referrals, and he stopped marketing. His realtors were retiring, moving out of state, getting out of the business, and so the business was down for him because he didn't have that strategic alliance with the realtors, with new realtors anymore. So it's important that you get out there, you talk to realtors, you go to events, you go to networking events. I know a lot of realtors don't have their office meetings anymore, but go to those Tuesday morning office meetings. Ask for a speaking engagement. Do a lunch and learn. Offer CE classes. My company, we teach of course you have to be a licensed realtor continuing education educator in order to do this in your state. We offer a CE class once a month virtually. Every month, a 3-hour CE class for realtors for elective education. And we track how many inspections come from that, and you'd be surprised how many new inspections we get by doing that. We'll also go to an office and do live realtor CE training. Do a mock inspection day. But you got to be out there interacting and bringing value to the realtors. The other thing you can do is be a resource to them. Tell them their client is about to walk off the cliff to call you. You'll be happy to talk them off the cliff if it's appropriate. So be a resource, but you really need to have that strategic alliance without crossing the line with realtors. So buying a home should be a celebration, okay? Keep it positive. From the personal perspective, It's a home where they're gonna live, where there's all their life events, where there's gonna be birthdays, graduations, there's gonna be weddings, there's gonna be family gatherings. You know, all of those things through life, the joy of opening a home that are gonna happen there. So don't lose sight over, we don't want the clients to lose sight over minor issues. A $5,000 repair in the context of a 30-year home isn't that big of a deal. Now, if it's a 2 to 5 year home, it might be a little bit more of a detail, but we want to help the clients see the forest for the trees. Buying a home is a significant investment, but it's generally a good decision. From the financial perspective, the national average of rent is between $1,700 and $1,850 a month. In Missouri, where I live, the average rent is $1,108. Okay? So if your buyer is living in an apartment, a first-time home buyer, what'd you say?
It's more in Columbia.
Yeah.
Double that.
It's the average. It's more in St. Louis, too. So that's $66,000 over 5 years. It's about $13,200 over a year. Okay? So even if there's some expensive repairs, from the perspective, if it's $15,000 a year for rent and there's a $5,000 repair, even if the sellers won't pay for it, as long as they have the wherewithal, they're still better off buying that home than giving $15,000 to somebody else where they're not building equity. Perspective, okay? And sometimes when you tell a buyer that, or a realtor that, a lot of times I'll tell a realtor that and let them do that perspective, it makes a big difference. But perspective prevents panic. So, in summary, we want to educate with empathy. We want to partner with realtors, okay, because that's where the majority of our referrals come. We want to be an emotional anchor to our clients, and home buying should be a positive experience. By honoring these skills, you become more than an inspector, you become a trusted guide, a trusted advisor. So, you're a marketing professional first. It's important that you do the continuing education. It's important that you do mentoring and networking. By coming to conferences like this, by coming to local meeting groups, organizations for home inspectors, whether it's a chapter or an online meeting group or whomever it is, you're going to get mentorship opportunities. You get as much value coming to a conference like this by the conversations you have out there as you do by the education. You'll learn a ton of things from other home inspectors. And a home inspector in your own city may be happy to help you with technical aspects and report writing. They're not going to want to give you probably too much business advice or too much marketing advice. But you come to these events, you make friends from all over the country, and you can call anybody else that you've made friends with, and they'll give you all the advice you want for free. Local organizations, it's important, those local chapters and those local home inspection organizations, because conferences like this, national associations like ASHI and NACHI, they do education very well in general. But when you get to localized education, that's hard for the national organizations to do because we need to teach to everybody. not necessarily to the nuances of Columbia, Missouri, or Milford, Boston, or wherever you may live. So being a part of a local organization, I would encourage you to do that because you get that localized education that you're not going to get anyplace else. So this is where I would ask, what do you do for a living? Can't hear you. Okay, you're a marketing professional first. Everything you do is a marketing opportunity, okay? If you're not out there, home inspections pay the bills, okay? But if you're not out there actively marketing all the time, every opportunity you get, you're giving business away to your competition. If you go to a Panera or a McDonald's or a Boston Market or wherever you're going to work on a report in between inspections because they have free Wi-Fi, it's a marketing opportunity. If you have a sticker on the back of your laptop while it's open, you're advertising. If you put your business cards or a brochure on the table, you're advertising. And you hear a realtor talking to a prospective client, I get up and walk over and say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm a home inspector. If I can be of any service, please let me know when I hand them my card. Every time you're out there in the public, it's a marketing opportunity. If you go to a restaurant, I ask, do you know anybody buying a house? It's always a marketing opportunity. So by thinking of yourself as a marketing professional first, okay, you go from a technician to an entrepreneur, from an inspector to a marketer. Even if you're not the business owner, you're just an inspector that works for a multi-inspector firm, people hire you because you're the product, okay? So you still want to be out there marketing yourself. You don't want to rely on the company doing all the marketing because the company's marketing everybody. And your goal is to put more inspections on your schedule and more money in your pocket. If you're not visible, you're invisible. No matter how good your technical skills are, effective marketing is crucial. Consistent marketing builds a following. So the golden rule 8 is marketing first, inspect second. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the future. So future-proofing your business. Staying ahead of a changing industry, we all know that's important. Staying ahead of changes in construction methods, best practice is important. So everybody's talking about AI. How will it impact our inspections? Will it just be our report writers? Will it be the service providers that help support us? Will it be AI applications that we use to streamline our operations? So there might be strategic advantages to it, but we have to adapt and find a path forward. If we don't embrace change, okay, we're not embracing a path to future success. AI will have a transformative impact on every industry, not just the inspection industry, every industry, every profession, every business, and every person, okay? And it's happening at exponential rates. Nobody knows what it's going to look like 2 to 3 years from now. So how will AI transform inspections and our profession? Well, I don't think home inspectors are going away, okay? But automated analysis, systems that can help you with scheduling, running your business, if you're not embracing them, you'll be left behind. You won't be able to compete. Predictive maintenance. We could incorporate AI to incorporate predictive maintenance in our report. It could enhance report writing, image analysis to find defects, looking at your report to look for liabilities, look for code issues. There's 1,000 different applications. If you use Grammarly, okay, it will fix your spelling and grammar way better than any word spell checker. And it'll even suggest improvements, but you have to be careful, because if the language model is not built on inspections, it may change a word or change the context. So if you're using it, make sure you're proofreading, because otherwise you may end up with something in there that you don't want. Will it create virtual inspections? I don't know. I doubt it. Okay. Will AI reduce realtor referrals or allow the creation of a do-it-yourself home inspection app? If AI realtors become a thing and it diminishes the number of realtors out there, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I hear people talking about AI realtors, that reduces your referrals. It affects your bottom line. How will you counteract that? AI search. I tell you, this, honest to God, this is the truth. In the last 2 weeks, my call center manager called me and told me 4 times they've had clients that scheduled inspections with us, and we always asked where the leads came from. And they said ChatGPT. Well, what'd you type in? Who's the best home inspector in St. Louis? 3 people pop up. It literally scraped the net. So it scraped everything out there on reviews, your B&B, your Better Business Bureau rating, everything out there on the net, and it came up with 3 inspectors. That may impact the way you're marketing. If somebody comes out with a do-it-yourself app, it will never do the job that a home inspector does. Okay? They're not going to open up a panel, get in a crawl space, on an attic, in an attic, on a roof. They're not going to know where to point the camera at, so they don't miss anything. And the AI language model may not pick up every defect in the pictures. But still, if you could do a do-it-yourself app, home inspection, how much is that going to cut into our market? If it removes just 5% and you start to add things up, if we just lose 10 to 20% of our business, how's that affect your business and your bottom line? Is it the difference from you being able to afford to stay as a small inspector, 1-man or 2-man shop, or do you now have to move to a multi-inspector firm or get a part-time job? So there's a lot about AI, but it's important that if you're not looking into it now, using it or figuring out how you're using it, you need to. If you don't, you'll be left behind. 2 years from now, the people that are using AI will be 1,000 miles ahead of anybody who isn't. So don't be left behind, okay? That's pretty much what I have for you. I hope it's been educational. Is there any questions? Okay, and I think they were going to put up a survey. So what they want you to do is they want you to fill out this survey on all the speakers so that they know how can better plan for future events. So thank you for your time.